Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your regular host, Shorty. I'm going to review today the Uncanny X-Men, the uncanny ones, not the regular X-Men. I've already done the regular X-Men, did about a month ago. And I basically said it was the flagship launching for the whole From the Ashes thing that Marvel are doing with their mutants at the moment. And since that point, I've read quite a few of them, not all of them, because Marvel like doing X-Men comics and I just don't have the time. I will say, with only one exception, I've loved all of them for different reasons. All of them have stood up as just cool comic books in their own right. They've been well written, had good artwork. And this one absolutely is the same. I'm not going to bury the lead here. This is going to be a positive review of this comic book. But it's kind of worth talking about some other things around about the subject as well. Specifically, the fact that since the Krakoan Age, launched by Hickman and then taken over by a bunch of British anarchist leftist writers like Kieran Gill and Al Ewing and Simon Spurrier, it's gone back to what I think most people consider to be a fairly safe space for Marvel mutant comic books. And I think it's probably a fairly solid split in X-Men fans who do like that and who don't like that. When I say fans, I first want to clarify and say I mean people who actually really enjoy the comic books, understand what their analogies for, and don't just think Wolverine stab fist cool. Go read comic books. And I also don't think there's an even split. I actually couldn't tell you exactly what the split would be, but I'm fairly sure there is going to be a divide of people who really, really enjoyed the high-concept sci-fi, playing off years of continuity and doing something cool, new, and different to status quo. And then there'll be people who are kind of glad that it's gone back to something which is a little bit more, I don't want to say entry-level, but easy to get into. If you've watched X-Men cartoons and you're aware of some of the movies, you can jump on with this one. And it makes sense that that's what people might want. But I think more than that, in the current climate, it actually makes an awful lot of sense to do it. A few years ago now, quite a few years ago, there's probably a bunch of people out there who would have been like, yeah, okay, it feels kind of good to be able to come out now. The world seems to be a little bit more accepting and we can actually be our true, authentic selves. And it was true that, media and culture was kind of moving in the right direction. Certainly an awful lot would have been, capitalist kind of stuff. But it was still there. And these people got to live free and proud and have their year-long parties. Their parties once a year, should I say. I mean, year-long parties are hell. Why the heck not, eh? But in the more recent present, some of these people may realise that stuff has changed and it feels like there's almost a sense of going back. And I've kind of lost the point where I was talking about the X-Men and I was talking about real-world minorities, because that is the point. Anyone who understands speculative fiction, and sci-fi in particular, understands that what it does is look at the real world through its fictional lens and tell stories about what's actually happening. This is the entire point of this kind of story, and in this case it feels very appropriate to be doing this right now. And if you're not sure why I'm saying that, I don't even pay enough attention. There's a whole bunch of stuff in America of queer rights being absolutely rolled back, women's reproductive rights and women's rights in general being rolled back. And in my own personal country, there is literal Nazis walking in the streets causing riots. And when I say literal Nazis, I don't want anyone to think that I'm using an exaggerated thing here to try to get extra attention. I'm talking people with swastika tattoos doing Heil Hitler salutes in the street, or burning libraries and public information centres, and citizens' advice bureaus, and occasionally stealing some Gregs because they're all idiots. That's why it feels appropriate that this is the point where X-Men have gone back to that thing where they no longer have this full support of Krakoa. The community has been broken down a little bit. Media is turning against them. Society and politicians are looking to criminalize them once again, in some cases quite successfully. That feels good to do now. Whether or not it's good that it's happening, it feels good that this is a choice the company has made. And I still don't mind people who are absolutely into the Krakoa kind of thing. There's a bunch of really good people writing that stuff, but right now you still have some really good talent. Like I said at the start of this is a positive review, because we've got Gail Simone, who is an absolutely fantastic writer. She chose Rogue to centre for this story, and it is effectively a huge story of multiple parts involving fighting a giant snake god and also being a Make-A-Wish team of X-Men, an awful lot of foreshadowing stuff going on, and an awful lot of really deep looks at what it means to move beyond stuff that happened in the past and try to reform community and community links. And I quite like the fact that on multiple occasions it's made absolutely clear that there's no intent to go back to try to recreate the Charles Xavier idea of the school. It's an almost anarchistic kind of look at we do not fear the ruins because we have the plans for a new world in our hearts. Only fascists look back at the past and say it's always just good and we should go back and just do nothing but that ever again. I like the fact that Simone is leaning into the fact that they're moving on. Also, the dialogue is fantastic, the narration is brilliant, on more than one occasion, lump in my throat. Some of the best individual bits of writing in any of the X-Men relaunches I've seen has been in this one. Also, it looks fantastic. I am going to have to check the first name of the artist here. I thought I'd got it, but I've forgotten. David Marquez does a brilliant job. Less in terms of costume design in this one. I think the other ones had a little bit more fun with how they're changing it. This one feels a little bit more back to what people are going to recognise. But again, he's dealing with a giant Mexican snake god and doing close personal stories at the same time as well. And he has all of that in his wheelhouse, and he does it all fantastically. Genuinely my favourite of the X-Men relaunches, and if I was going to get back into X-Men comic books, this would be the one I would get back into. That's it for me for now. I've got a whole bunch of stuff to review this week, including more Oni stuff. Make sure you do the social media stuff if you don't miss anything. Until I see you again, though, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye!